Teacher: Jay, why are you down today? Jay: because my mom is at the hospital and my dad is at the police station. Teacher: oh, I'm sorry to hear that, dear. Do you want to go home? Jay: yes, please. After Jay has left the classroom, the teacher asks the other classmates, why is Jay's father at the police station and the mother at the hospital? Classmate: because his father is a policeman and his mom's a nurse. A woman goes out shopping with her husband and spots a pair of boots she loves. The husband says, no chance, love, they're way too expensive. Later in bed, the wife is just falling asleep. The husband tries his luck and places his hand on her hip and lower onto her thigh. She turns to him and says, I don't think so, mate. If you're not prepared to shoe the horse, then you're sure as ain't riding it. A man was going door to door doing a survey in Jeff's neighborhood. How often a week do you sleep with your wife? Asked the inquirer. 3 times, Jeff said without hesitation. That is once more often than your neighbor, the inquirer said, writing. That makes sense, Jeff said. After all, she's my wife. I was in a public restroom and had just sat down when I heard a voice from the next stall. Hi, how are you? A little embarrassed, I said, I'm fine. The voice continued, so what are you doing? I replied, just the same as you, I guess, sitting here. Then he asked, can I come over? Now I'm getting irritated. I said, I'm kinda busy right now. Then the voice said, listen, I'll have to call you back. There's some weirdo in the next stall answering all my questions. One evening, a husband, thinking he was being funny, said to his wife, perhaps we should start washing your clothes in Slim Fast. Maybe it would take a few inches off your butt. His wife was not amused and decided that she simply couldn't let such a comment go unrewarded. The next morning, the husband took a pair of underwear out of his drawers. What is this? He said to himself as a little dust cloud appeared when he shook them out. April, he hollered into the bathroom. Why did you put talcum powder in my underwear? She replied with a snicker. It's not talcum powder, it's Miracle Grow. A doctor and a lawyer are chatting at a party, just trying to relax. But every 5 minutes, someone interrupts the doctor. Can you look at this rash? My back's been killing me. Does this mole look weird? After an hour of free checkups, the doctor sighs and asks the lawyer, how do you deal with people asking for free legal advice outside of work? The lawyer smirks. Simple. I give them advice, then I mail them a bill. The doctor blinks. You're joking. Not even a little. Inspired and mildly vengeful, the doctor decides to try it. The next day, he writes up bills for everyone who bugged him at the party. As he heads to the mailbox to send them off, he finds something already waiting for him, a bill from the lawyer. A young doctor asked a 100-year-old man, what's the secret to your long and healthy life? The old man smiled and said, well, I've been married for 75 years. Early on, my wife and I agreed, whoever loses an argument has to walk 5 kilometers. He leaned back and added, I've been walking nearly every day since 1949. The doctor laughed. No wonder you're in great shape, but what about your wife? She looks amazing too. The old man grinned. She's been secretly following me all these years to make sure I actually walk the full 5 kilometers. A woman was worried about the elderly widow who lived next door. She hadn't heard from her in a few days, so she told her son, I want you to go next door and check on Mrs. Williams. A few minutes later, the boy returned. Well, is she all right? His mother asked. She's fine, but she's annoyed with you, he replied. Annoyed with me? Why? The boy shrugged and said, Mrs. Williams told me it's none of your business how old she is. During the wedding rehearsal, the groom pulled the priest aside with an unusual request. Look, he said, I'll give you $100 if you change the vows. When you get to the part where I'm supposed to love, honor, and obey, and forsake all others, Be faithful to her forever. I'd really appreciate it if you just skipped that part." He slipped the priest the cash and walked away. The big day arrived. When it was time for the groom's vows, the priest looked him straight in the eye and said, "Will you promise to prostrate yourself before her, obey her every command and wish, serve her breakfast in bed every morning for the rest of your life, and swear before God and your beautiful wife that you'll never even look at another woman for as long as you both shall live?" The groom turned pale, looked around nervously, and mumbled, "I do." After the ceremony, he grabbed the priest and hissed, "Hey, I thought we had a deal." The priest calmly slipped the 100 back into his hand and whispered, "Sorry, the bride's father made me a much better offer." A young couple had recently gotten married. After 3 months, the wife went to the doctor for a checkup. The doctor told her she was pregnant. She was thrilled, but the doctor also informed her that, due to a rare complication, she shouldn't have sex with her husband until after the birth. She went home and told her husband what the doctor had said. The husband agreed to try and hold out. After a month, the husband couldn't resist anymore and asked his wife to be intimate. Of course, she refused. Seeing her husband so depressed and sad, the wife called him over and said, "My dear husband, I know you're suffering. Here, take $300 and go to a worker to relieve yourself." The husband took the money and thought to himself, what a wonderful and considerate wife, opened the door and went down the stairs, feeling cheerful. When he reached the first floor, the neighbor's wife saw him and asked, "Why are you so happy?" He happily told her the whole story. She then said, "Why go looking outside for a worker? Give me the $300 and I'll take care of you." The man agreed, gave her the money, went into her apartment, enjoyed himself for 20 minutes, and then returned home. His wife saw him and was astonished, asking, "What happened, dear? You came back so quickly. Did you change your mind?" The husband replied, "I went downstairs and the neighbor saw me. She offered to take the money instead, so that's what I did." His wife got very angry and said, "What a jerk. When she was pregnant, I did her husband for free." A psychiatrist was conducting a group therapy session for the first time. The group was made up of 3 young mothers and their small children. The goal was to find out their problems and solve them together. As the session started, the psychiatrist got up, turned to face them, and said, "Everyone has their own problems and obsessions. These problems are different for each individual, but we often unconsciously leave small clues as a cry for help. So, with that in mind, let me go around the room and attempt to guess your problems. From looking at the roster today, I can tell that you all have obsessions," he continued. To the first mother, he said, "You are obsessed with eating. In fact, you even went so far as to name your daughter Candy." He then turned to the second mother. "Your obsession appears to be money," he said. "Again, it manifests itself in your child's name, Penny." At this point, the third mother looked around nervously, hurriedly got up, took her little boy by the hand and whispered, "Come on, Peter, it's time to go." A woman pregnant with triplets was walking down the street when a masked robber ran out of a bank and shot her 3 times in the stomach. Luckily, the babies were okay. The surgeon decided to leave the bullets in because it was too risky to operate. She gave birth to 2 healthy daughters and a healthy son. All was fine for 6 years, and then one daughter walked into the room in tears. "What's wrong?" asked the mother. "I was taking a tinkle and this bullet came out," replied the daughter. The mother told her it was okay and explained what happened 16 years ago. About a week later, the second daughter walked into the room in tears. "Mom, I was taking a tinkle and this bullet came out." Again, the mother told her not to worry and explained what happened 16 years ago. A week later, her son walked into the room in tears. "It's okay," said the mom. "I know what happened. You were taking a tinkle and a bullet came out." "No," said the boy. "I was playing with myself and I shot the dog." Two young lovers go up to the mountains for a romantic winter vacation. When they get there, the guy goes out to chop some wood. When he gets back, he says, "Honey, my hands are freezing." She says, "Well, put them here between my thighs and that will warm them up." After lunch, he goes back out to chop some more wood and comes back and says again, "Man, my hands are really freezing." She says again, "Well, put them here between my thighs and warm them up." He does, and again that warms him up. After dinner, he goes out one more time to chop some wood to get them through the night. When he returns, he says again, "Honey, my hands are really freezing." She looks at him and says, "For crying out loud, don't your ears ever get cold? It's too old." Five guys were in a bar, feeling a bit tipsy. Their conversation turned into a playful debate about who was the most well-endowed. The banter escalated, and finally the bartender, tired of the commotion, suggested, "Why don't you put them on the bar and settle it?" Egged on by the drinks, the five men did just that. Just then, a man walked in, looked around at the scene, and without missing a beat, said to the bartender, "I'll have the buffet." A man goes to his physician and is shocked to find that he has been replaced by a supercomputer. The computer asks him his ailments, and the man says he has a sore elbow. A drawer pops out, and he is asked to urinate in it. After a few bleeps and flashing lights, the computer decides he has tennis elbow. The man is annoyed and decides to get one over on this machine, so he asks his wife for a urine sample. He then mixes this with urine from his dog and his small son, and to top it off, adds some of his sperm. He takes it to the computer physician, who again asks him for a sample. He places the urine-sperm sample in the drawer, and the computer makes its usual display of bleeps and flashes before telling him that his wife is pregnant, his dog has rabies, his son has chickenpox, and if he doesn't stop masturbating, he'll never get rid of his tennis elbow. She married the man she loved, but never expected this on their wedding night. Jim proposed to Sandy, and she happily accepted, but not before sharing something important. She told him about a childhood illness that had affected her development. Jim reassured her, saying, "That doesn't change how much I love you." Wanting to be honest, Jim also shared a secret. "I need you to know, my size down there is like that of an infant." Sandy thought for a moment and then smiled. "That's okay. I love you for who you are, not just for that." On their wedding night, excitement filled the air as they finally had their moment alone. As Sandy reached into Jim's pants, she suddenly gasped, screamed, and ran out of the room. Jim rushed after her. "What's wrong?" he asked, confused. Catching her breath, she stammered, "You said it was the size of an infant." Jim grinned. "It is 8 pounds, 7 ounces, and 19 inches long." A hard-working man has finished his day on the job and arrives home, has a shower and his dinner, after which he heads off to his local bar for a drink or two to relax. As he approaches the bar, he sees a nun who begins to preach to him. "Beware of the demon drink. Think of your poor mother and father in heaven." The man becomes annoyed and approaches the nun and says, "Aren't you a bit of a hypocrite, standing there and shouting about drink when you've never had one yourself?" The nun looks a bit sheepish and replies, "When I think about it, you're right, you know. Maybe I should have a drink before preaching about it. What do women usually drink?" The man says most women like gin, and the nun answers, "Maybe I should try one, but could you get me it in a cup, as I don't want people to see me drinking out of a glass." The man heads into the bar and says to the barman, "Could I have a pint of beer and a double gin in a cup?" The barman responds, "Is that back again?" A Roman Catholic priest is on his way to Rome when he runs into an old childhood friend. "My goodness, Mary," he says. "How have you been?" "Oh, could be better," she says. "My husband Robert and I have been trying to have children for 15 years, but we are barren." "I'm so sorry," says the priest. "I'm on a pilgrimage to Rome. and I promise to light a candle for you in the great cathedral." Mary thanks him, and after chatting a little longer, they part ways. 5 years later, the priest is eating dinner when there's a knock at his door. He opens it, and to his surprise, it's Mary's husband, Robert. "I'm so glad I found you," he exclaims. "Remember that candle you lit for Mary years ago? Well, Mary and I now have 2 sets of twins and a set of triplets, and I just found out she's pregnant with quadruplets." Robert then hands the priest an all-expenses-paid ticket to Rome. "Oh my, Robert," says the priest, "your joy is my joy. You didn't need to give me a thank you gift." "Oh no, it's not a thank you," says Robert. "It's so you can blow out that damn candle." A middle-aged man and a teenage girl arrive simultaneously late at night at a B&B to be told theirs was only 1 room left with only 1 bed. After some discussion, they decide to take it. In the room, they find the bed. The girl says she is cold, and perhaps they should share the bed and keep each other warm, to which he agrees. After a while, the girl complains she is uncomfortable, and could they swap sides? He gets out, walks round the bed, and gets in. A short while later, she again says she can't sleep. Would he mind changing back? He gets out, walks round the bed, and gets in. Later, she complains again and suggests that instead of getting out the bed, he climbs over her, which he does. By now, it's early morning, and she is still complaining, and again, he climbs over her. At this point, she asks him, "Don't you know what I want?" "Yes," he replies, "the whole bed, and you're not getting it." A man had 6 children and was very proud of his achievement. He was so proud of himself that he started calling his wife mother of 6, in spite of her objections. One night they went to a party. He decided that it was time to go home and wanted to find out if his wife is ready to leave as well. He shouted at the top of his voice, "Shall we go home, mother of 6? His wife, irritated by her husband's lack of discretion, shouted back, "Anytime you're ready, father of 4. 3 men suddenly pass away and find themselves at the pearly gates. St. Peter says, "You all have to wait until the line shortens, so you can go back to Earth as anything or anyone." The first man speaks, "I served my life helping others as a pilot." Poof! St. Peter waves his hand and the first man vanished. The second man also says, "I helped save many animals as a veterinarian." Poof! The second man also vanishes. St. Peter stares at the third man and asks, "What is your wish?" "I want to be a stud." The third man cracked a smile. "Very well." Poof! The third man vanished. A few days later, St. Peter walks up to St. Peter. "I heard that there's 3 men that were told to wait. Where are they?" St. Peter starts explaining. "Well, 2 will be easy to find. 1 wished to be an eagle, and the second wished to be a lion. But that third man, he was weird." "What do you mean by the word weird?" St. Peter asks. "Well, he wished to be a stud." "Where is he?" St. Peter asks at first. "You know his wish is a grave sin." "Yes, sir." St. Peter lowers his head. "Where is he now?" St. Peter yells. St. Peter lifts his head and stares at St. Peter. "On a mud and snow tire in Barroom, Alaska." A schoolteacher used to take a short nap every afternoon. When his pupils asked him why he did so, he said that he went to dreamland to meet ancient sages. One extremely hot day, some of the pupils fell asleep in the afternoon. When the schoolteacher chided them, they said, "We went to meet the sages in dreamland." "What did they say?" demanded the teacher. "We asked them if a school teacher came there every afternoon, but they said they had seen no such person." After 20 years of shaving himself every morning, a man in a small town decided he had been doing that long enough. He told his wife that from now on, he'd let the local barber shave him each day. The man went to the barber shop, which was owned by the pastor of the local church. The barber's wife, Grace, shaved him and sprayed him with lilac water. "That will be $25, she said. The man thought that was a bit high and wondered how he had continued to pay such a bill, but he paid for the service and went off to work. The next morning, the man looked in the mirror and saw that his face was as smooth as it had been when he left the barber shop the day before. Not bad, he thought. At least I don't need to shave every day. The next morning, the man's face was still smooth. 2 weeks later, the man was still unable to find any trace of whiskers on his face. He couldn't understand it, so he returned to the barber shop. I thought $25 was high for a shave, he told the barber's wife. But you have done a great job. It's been 2 weeks and my whiskers still haven't started growing back. The woman's face showed no surprise. Well, of course, she said. You were shaved by Grace? An 80-year-old woman got caught shoplifting and had to face the judge. Judge: What did you steal? Grandma: A can of peaches. Judge: Why? Grandma: I was hungry. Judge: How many peaches were in the can? Grandma: 6. Judge: All right, that's 6 days in jail. Before the judge could finalize the sentence, her husband quickly raised his hand. Judge: Yes, what do you want to say? Husband: She also stole a can of peas. Someone get this man out of the courtroom before she gets life. 3 elderly friends were reminiscing about the challenges of aging. 60 is the toughest age, Ruth, who was 60, said with a sigh. You always feel like you need to go to the bathroom, but then nothing really happens. Maxine, who was 70, chuckled and said, Oh, that's nothing. At 70, you can't seem to get things moving at all. You take every kind of laxative, eat all the bran you can, and still end up sitting on the toilet all day with no results. Gilda, the 80-year-old, shook her head with a smile. 80 is the worst age by far. Do you have trouble with peeing too? Ruth asked. No, I have no problem with that, Gilda replied. I pee like a racehorse every morning at 6 a.m. sharp. Maxine then asked, And what about your bowel movements? Not a problem there either, Gilda answered. I have a bowel movement every morning at 6:30. Ruth was curious. So if you pee at 6 a.m. and have a bowel movement at 6:30, what's so difficult about being 80? Gilda shrugged with a grin. The trouble is, I don't wake up until